Did you or did you not make those comments during that meeting?
Which comments, Senator?
You really need me to repeat it? Bove stated that DOJ would need to consider telling the courts, fuck you, and ignoring any such court order. Did you say anything of that kind in the meeting?
Senator, I have no recollection of saying anything of that kind. To the extent I
Wouldn't you recall, Mr. Bove, if you said or suggested during a meeting with Justice Department lawyers that maybe they should consider telling the court, fuck you? It seems to me that would be something you'd remember unless that's the kind of thing you say frequently. Well, did you suggest telling the courts, fuck you in any manner?
I don't recall.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to America First, the channel that brings you the truth that the mainstream media won't tell you. If you're new here, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to join our growing army of patriots who are fighting to take back our country. And folks, if you want to support real independent journalism that isn't beholden to corporate interests or the deep state, head over to patreon.com/AmericaFirst, where you can support our work for as low as $5 a month. Every dollar helps us continue bringing you the unfiltered truth. Today we're going to break down what might be one of the most disgraceful displays of political theater I've seen in years, and that's saying something considering what we've witnessed from the radical left over the past few years. We're talking about Adam Schiff's absolutely shameful interrogation of Emil Bove, a dedicated public servant who has spent his career fighting for American justice, only to be dragged through the mud by a man who has made a career out of lying to the American people.
Mr. Bove, I want to turn to the meeting that Mr. Ruvani, the whistleblower, has written an extensive complaint about. The hearing started with the chairman reading a social media post by the Deputy Attorney General Blanche, who is present today but not under oath, nor is that social media post under oath. So let me ask you, since you are under oath, in the complaint it says, Bove stated that DOJ would need to consider telling the courts, fuck you, and ignoring any such court order. Did you say anything of that kind in the meeting?
Senator, I have no recollection of saying anything of that kind. To the extent I
Wouldn't you recall, Mr. Bove, if you said or suggested during a meeting with Justice Department lawyers that maybe they should consider telling the court, fuck you? It seems to me that would be something you'd remember unless that's the kind of thing you say frequently.
Well, I've certainly said things encouraging litigators at the department to fight hard for valid positions that we have to take in defense of our clients.
And have you frequently suggested that they say fuck you and ignore court orders? Is that also something you frequently do, such you might not remember doing it on this occasion?
No, and as I explained, I have never directed.
So did you or did you not make those comments during that meeting?
Which comments, Senator?
You really need me to repeat it? Did you suggest, as Mr. Ruvani wrote, that DOJ would need to consider telling the courts, fuck you, and ignore any such court order?
I did not suggest that there would be any need to consider ignoring court orders. At the point of that meeting, there were no court orders to discuss.
Well, did you suggest telling the courts, fuck you, in any manner?
I don't recall.
You just don't remember that. Well, let me ask you this. It also says in the complaint, Bove indicated and stressed to all in attendance that the planes needed to take off no matter what. These are the planes that a judge was ordering not be used to render people to a maximum security prison outside the country. Did you say during that meeting, did you stress to all in attendance that the planes needed to take off no matter what?
Senator, your characterization is not accurate.
It's not my characterization. It's the characterization of a decorated prosecutor who was in that meeting. Are you saying that he's lying?
As I said at the beginning of the hearing.
No, I'm not interested in what you said at the beginning of the hearing. I'm interested in whether you stressed to people in attendance that the planes needed to take off no matter what. Did you say that?
I certainly conveyed the importance of the upcoming operation.
Well, don't paraphrase here. Did you tell people in attendance the planes needed to take off no matter what?
I don't recall the specific words that I used.
Wouldn't you recall saying that if you had instructed that the planes needed to take off no matter what, including whether the court ordered otherwise? You wouldn't remember that?
This is a mischaracterization, Senator. There were no court orders at this point.
Well, there was a court order, wasn't there?
No,
wasn't there a court order by Judge Boasberg, if not in this specific case, then in related cases, that people not be sent out of the country until the court could rule? Wasn't there a court order?
Not at the time of that meeting, Senator.
Did you participate in the decision not to disseminate that oral court order prior to the written court order to other agencies so those planes would not take off, so those planes would turn around? Were you involved in the decision to withhold that court order from the responsible agencies?
I think it's clear that I participated in this.
Yes or no?
I participated in this matter, and I'm not going to get into the contents of legal advice. I did, over the course of time, as many lawyers have,
No, I'm not
provide
interested in
advice
over
about
the course
scope
of time. I'm interested
court orders.
in whether you participated in the willful violation of court orders as alleged in this complaint. Let me ask you
Absolutely
this, Mr. Bove, if there are notes of that meeting, will you provide them to this committee?
I defer to the committee and to the executive branch on the procedure.
And if the committee requests them, will you provide those notes to the committee?
I defer to the executive branch on the handling of that request.
And let me ask you about notes from another meeting, which you're contesting here, and that is the meeting over the decision to dismiss the case in New York, the corruption case against the mayor of New York. According to Ms. Sassoon, the U.S. attorney at the time, during the meeting with Adams' attorneys, where she described Adams' attorneys repeatedly urging what amounted to a quid pro quo, that you admonished one of the lawyers in the room to stop taking notes. Is that true?
I don't believe I instructed that attorney to stop taking notes. I did remark on the fact that he was taking extensive notes, yes.
And why did it concern you that he was taking notes of that meeting?
Because at that point in the meeting, we were discussing who was responsible for media leaks, and I was making the point that only the prosecutors had created an extensive record that could support detailed leaks.
And you were concerned, were you, that information about this potential quid pro quo might become public? Was that the concern?
I've explained that there was no quid pro quo.
Will you provide the notes of that meeting, which you, according to the U.S. attorney, instructed be collected at the end of the meeting?
I think a member of my staff may have given that instruction outside my presence, and I defer to the committee and the executive branch on records requests and how those should be handled.
Well, I would request that we seek these records, which go to the truthfulness or lack of truthfulness of this witness. There's a reason why, if I may, my colleagues have gone over at least as much as this. There must be a reason why prosecutors quit rather than following orders from you they considered unethical. There must be a reason why prosecutors complained about you in your own office, why defense attorneys complained about you in your own office, why the judge in the case involving the dismissal of the charges in New York said everything here smacks of a bargain. You testified earlier that the objective evidence overwhelmingly made it clear that it was not a bargain. That there must be a reason why everyone disagrees with you, Mr. Bove, and people feel it necessary to give up a job they love at the Department of Justice and quit because they won't go along with what they consider unethical and immoral orders from you. There must be a reason why that is so true of so many, and this court needs to get to the bottom of it. I yield back.
Let me start by giving you some context about Emil Bove, because the mainstream media certainly won't. This is a man who has dedicated his life to serving our country and upholding the rule of law. Bove has been a prosecutor fighting real criminals, not chasing political witch hunts like some people we know. He's been on the front lines of keeping America safe, working on cases involving national security, immigration enforcement, and protecting our borders. This is exactly the kind of person we need in the Department of Justice, someone who puts America first and isn't afraid to do the hard work of enforcing our laws. But what did we see in this hearing? We saw Adam Schiff, the same Adam Schiff who spent years lying to the American people about Russian collusion, the same Adam Schiff who read a completely fabricated version of President Trump's phone call with Ukraine into the Congressional record, the same Adam Schiff who has been wrong about virtually everything for the past 8 years, trying to destroy the reputation of a good man who is simply doing his job. Let's break down what actually happened here, because the way Schiff presented it is a masterclass in manipulation and political theater. Schiff is trying to paint Emil Bove as some rogue operator who is telling the Justice Department to ignore court orders and use profanity toward judges. But when you actually listen to Bove's responses, what do you hear? You hear a man who categorically denies making these statements, who has no recollection of saying anything inappropriate, and who clearly explains that his role was to encourage attorneys to fight hard for valid legal positions. This is what good leadership looks like, folks. When you're dealing with cases that affect national security and immigration enforcement, you need people who are willing to fight for what's right, not roll over every time some activist judge tries to stop legitimate law enforcement operations. Bove was doing exactly what the American people elected Republicans to do: enforce our immigration laws and protect our national security, even when the establishment tries to stop them. But let's talk about the elephant in the room here. Adam Schiff has the audacity to question someone else's credibility. This is the same man who went on television for years claiming he had seen evidence of Russian collusion that didn't exist. This is the same man who helped orchestrate 2 bogus impeachment attempts against President Trump. This is the same man who has been caught in lie after lie after lie, and now he wants to lecture Emil Bove about truthfulness? The hypocrisy is absolutely staggering. Schiff spent years undermining our democratic institutions, weaponizing congressional investigations for political purposes, and spreading conspiracy theories that divided our country and weakened our national security. And now he has the nerve to attack a career prosecutor who is simply trying to do his job and enforce the laws that Congress passed? Let's also talk about what's really going on here with these deportation flights. The American people voted for immigration enforcement. They voted for secure borders. They voted for the deportation of criminals who have no right to be in our country. Emil Bove was working to implement those policies, and when he said the planes needed to take off, he was doing exactly what the American people elected their representatives to do. But the radical left doesn't want immigration enforcement. They want open borders. They want to obstruct every effort to remove criminals from our communities. So when they can't stop these operations through legitimate means, they run to activist judges to get court orders to block enforcement. And when career prosecutors like Emil Bove try to navigate these legal challenges while still enforcing the law, people like Adam Schiff try to destroy their careers. This is how the deep state operates, folks. They can't win at the ballot box, so they use every tool at their disposal to obstruct the will of the American people. They weaponize the courts, they weaponize congressional hearings, they weaponize the media, all to stop the implementation of America First policies. And let's be clear about what Schiff is really doing here. He's not interested in finding the truth. He's not interested in justice. He's interested in taking down anyone who stands in the way of the radical left's agenda. Emil Bove represents everything the establishment hates: competence, dedication to the rule of law, and a willingness to put America's interests first. The questions Schiff was asking were designed to create sound bites for the mainstream media, not to elicit truthful information. When Bove repeatedly stated that he didn't recall making specific statements or that Schiff's characterizations were inaccurate, Schiff just kept pushing the same narrative. This isn't how you conduct a legitimate investigation. This is how you conduct a political hit job. And what about these so-called whistleblowers that Schiff keeps referencing? We've seen this playbook before. The radical left finds disgruntled employees who are opposed to conservative policies. They elevate their complaints to whistleblower status, and then they use their allegations to attack good people who are trying to serve their country. We saw this with the Ukraine impeachment hoax, and we're seeing it again here. But here's what the mainstream media won't tell you: disagreement with policy is not misconduct. When prosecutors quit because they don't want to enforce immigration laws, that's not evidence of wrongdoing by their supervisors. That's evidence that those prosecutors were more committed to their political ideology than to their oath of office. Emil Bove was tasked with implementing the policies that the American people voted for. When activist prosecutors and judges tried to obstruct those policies, he fought back within the bounds of the law. That's not corruption. That's leadership. That's what we need more of in our government. The idea that prosecutors are quitting because they're being asked to do unethical things is laughable. What's unethical is refusing to enforce immigration laws. What's unethical is allowing criminals to remain in our communities because you disagree with deportation policies. What's unethical is using your position in the Justice Department to obstruct the implementation of policies that were democratically elected. Let's also address this nonsense about the Mayor Adams case that Schiff brought up. The idea that Emil Bove was somehow involved in a corrupt bargain is absurd. Bove clearly stated that there was no quid pro quo, and his explanation about the note-taking incident makes perfect sense. When you're dealing with media leaks that could compromise ongoing investigations, it's entirely appropriate to be concerned about who has access to detailed records. But Schiff doesn't want to hear reasonable explanations. He wants to create a narrative of corruption where none exists. This is the same tactic he used during the Russia hoax and the impeachment proceedings. Take normal government operations, twist them into something sinister, and then use the media to spread your narrative. The real corruption here is what Adam Schiff has been doing for years. He's corrupted the congressional oversight process by turning it into a weapon for political warfare. He's corrupted the intelligence community by leaking classified information when it served his political purposes. He's corrupted the media by feeding them false information that he knew would damage his political opponents. And now he's trying to corrupt the Justice Department by attacking career prosecutors who are simply trying to do their jobs. This is how authoritarianism works, folks. When you can't win through democratic means, you destroy the institutions and the people who stand in your way. But here's what gives me hope. Emil Bove didn't back down. Even under withering questioning from one of the most dishonest politicians in Washington, he stood his ground. He defended his actions. He refused to be intimidated. This is the kind of courage we need more of in our government. We need people who are willing to stand up to the swamp, even when it's difficult. We need people who are willing to enforce our laws, even when activist judges try to stop them. We need people who put America first, even when the establishment tries to destroy them for it. The American people are smart enough to see through Adam Schiff's charade. They've seen his lies exposed time and time again. They know that when he attacks someone, it's usually because that person is doing something right. Emil Bove's vigorous defense of his actions and his refusal to be intimidated by Schiff's grandstanding shows exactly why the establishment wants him gone. This hearing wasn't about oversight. It wasn't about accountability. It was about intimidation. It was about sending a message to anyone in the Justice Department who might be thinking about actually enforcing our laws. Step out of line and we'll destroy you. But that intimidation only works if good people stay silent. That's why channels like ours are so important. We need to stand up for the people who are fighting for America, even when the mainstream media won't. We need to expose the hypocrisy of people like Adam Schiff, even when it's uncomfortable. We need to tell the truth, even when it's not popular. Emil Bove deserves our support, not our condemnation. He was doing the job the American people elected their representatives to do. He was enforcing immigration laws that Congress passed. He was protecting national security interests that are vital to our country's survival. And for that, he's being dragged through the mud by a man who has spent years lying to the American people. The contrast couldn't be clearer. On one side, you have Emil Bove, a career prosecutor who has dedicated his life to serving his country and enforcing the law. On the other side, you have Adam Schiff, a politician who has made a career out of lying, leaking, and obstructing justice when it serves his political purposes. I know which side I'm on, and I think most Americans do too. We're on the side of the people who are willing to do the hard work of governing, not the people who specialize in tearing down our institutions for political gain. As we move forward, we need to remember what we witnessed in this hearing. We saw the deep state in action trying to destroy a good man for doing his job. We saw political theater masquerading as oversight. We saw hypocrisy on a level that would be shocking if we weren't already used to it from people like Adam Schiff. But we also saw courage. We saw integrity. We saw what it looks like when someone refuses to be intimidated by the swamp. Emil Bove's performance in that hearing should serve as an inspiration to anyone who cares about justice and the rule of law. The fight for America's future isn't going to be easy. The establishment will continue to attack anyone who threatens their power. They'll continue to use every tool at their disposal to obstruct America First policies. But as long as we have people like Emil Bove who are willing to stand up and fight, and as long as we have patriots like you who are willing to support them, we can win this battle. That's why your support is so crucial. Head over to patreon.com/AmericaFirst and help us continue bringing you the truth that the mainstream media won't tell you. For as low as $5 a month, you could be part of the fight to take back our country and restore sanity to our government. Make sure you like this video if you agree that Emil Bove deserves our support and that Adam Schiff's hypocrisy needs to be exposed. Subscribe to our channel to stay up to date on all the latest developments in the fight for America's future. And share this video with your friends and family who need to know the truth about what's really happening in Washington. Together, we can hold the deep state accountable. Together, we can support the good people who are fighting for our country. Together, we can make America first again. Thanks for watching, Patriots, and I'll see you in the next video.